Have you ever thought to yourself, what is the NAIT Students Association? We are your student-led organization, and our mission is to provide students with exceptional service and representation. Here are some of the key things we do. There are 4 full-time student executives working for you: President, Vice President Academic, Vice President External, Vice President Student Services. They advocate for students to all levels of government and NAIT administration. The VP Academic can help you with questions or issues regarding your studies here at NAIT. Our Student Senate is made up of 18 representatives from all the different program areas. The Senate members provide input and vote on important NAITSA issues. We provide and maintain all of the microwaves on campus. We develop and distribute the Student Handbook. We own and operate Nest Tap House Grill. We publish the Nugget Student Newspaper. We operate the Student Health and Dental Benefits. We administer the U-Pass. We provide discounted tickets to sporting events, movies, and other fun activities. We support and fund over 70 campus clubs. We coordinate super fun student events on campus. There is truly an event for everyone. For more information and to learn how you can get involved, visit naitsa.ca. And remember, we are here for you.
So that's our cool little 90-second video, just giving a brief overview of who we are, what we do. On top of that, we have we have all these services that we offer. Obviously, the food bank, clubs, in my opinion, one of the best clubs programs in Canada, advocacy, the Nest, the Nugget, just a ton of different services that we do offer. Even on the top there, you can see our VP Academic shining Mayor Mandel's shoes for Shinerama, raising money for charity and getting that advocacy goal taken care of. What's important to note, though, is how our services have changed in recent past. So obviously, with the new academic model, we've had an influx of student members. Most of these members were Con Ed students who are now considered credit students. So to kind of meet the needs of our evening and weekend students, we've actually extended our office hours. So now, Monday to Thursday, we're open until 6 o'clock. And we're also planning a whole host of new events that are geared specifically towards the evening and the weekend students. Most notably, the stuff that's coming up is going to be a barbecue from 4:30 to 6 for the evening students and the regular students alike. A big change that has happened is we've switched the way that we actually charge our fees. So now, because of the new academic model, we've switched everything to a per credit basis. So the basic student who's on campus, who's taking classes here, is going to be paying $13.35 per credit. Of course, if it's a non-credit class, you're not going to be paying anything per credit. The only exception to that is when you see the $3.35 per credit, and that's for the online classes or distance learning. Next up is the health and dental. Obviously, our health and dental is provided, our broker is Gallivan & Associates, but the underwriter and the person who provides our insurance is Great West Life. Really huge company. And one of the great services that we get is mystudentplan.ca. You can go onto mystudentplan.ca, you can see, you can do your opt-outs online, you can check all your benefits, lots of great services on there. And of course, this is kind of the brief overview of what's included in the benefits. I'm not going to go into detail too much right now, but you can go online onto mystudentplan.ca or come down to the office and you can see all the specific details that are listed for each of the coverages. Of course, the office is in E125 right beside the NAITSA office. Brianne is there, she can help you out. Or if it's after hours or if you just need to check a few things quickly, again, mystudentplan.ca. A couple interesting little points here. You can opt out should you have pre-existing coverage. Really easy to opt out. You just go online or into the office, and it's a one-time opt-out. So you opt out once, and you're opted out for the remainder of your program. There has been a couple changes in the back end with this system. Previously, it used to be automatic, so you'd opt out, and then the system wouldn't even charge you anymore after that. Because of the new academic model, the way that the system is programmed now, it's more of a manual process. So if you have submitted an opt-out, but you're still seeing the fee on your account, that can happen. The fees are getting taken off. It's just taking a little bit longer than it used to in the past. The last thing I want to point out is the opt-out deadline. September 27th is the opt-out deadline for this semester. So So if you don't opt out by then, you're part of the program. We try and advertise it as much as we can around campus, and we try to put it up online, but it's just a really important date to know. There's one in January as well for our January intake. Of course, the big thing we're going to talk about is the U-Pass. So just a quick, brief history of what the U-Pass is. The U-Pass is the Universal Transit Pass. It allows riders to ride the ETS, Strathcona County Transit, and St. Albert Transit systems at a heavily discounted price. The reason that the U-Pass was brought about is kind of twofold. First, since the beginning of NAIT, parking has always been an issue on campus. A really great way to alleviate parking problems is to encourage people to use the public transit system. If you have more people riding the public transit system and less people parking on campus, you're going to see a decrease in your parking needs. Of course, with that being said, parking is still sold out right now, so we can even do better than we are right now. The second reason, of course, is the awesome environmental benefits that are always gained through the use of public transit. There is a green movement going on right now, and we're trying to look after the future. With that being said, NAITSA is not new to the U-Pass. We've been involved in the actual program for quite a while now. Most notably, last year, we negotiated with the service providers to get a substantial discount for students. The service providers originally in their contract offered the U-Pass to start this year at $170 and go for 4 years till it ended up at $200. NAITSA, along with the other student associations in Edmonton, was able to negotiate with them so that it's the current price, which it is right now, $147.50 is the starting year of the contract, all the way to $170, which would be the last year before the contract. It doesn't seem like a heck of a lot right now, but when you add it up over the course of all the students, over all the campuses, over the 4 years of the contract, it ends up being about a $10 million savings for the students in Alberta, at least in Edmonton. Of course, I have to talk about the history of the U-Pass. If you take a look here on the left, these are the results from the first referendum that we ran. And these are the results over here of the referendum that we just ran in February. As you can see, the first referendum we ran was 67% in favor, which fulfills our bylaw requirements. And then if you look over here, it was a 78% majority in favor. This gives us a trend of support. Basically, it strengthens the student mandate. It shows that the students on campus want this program, and the support's actually increasing. Next, of course, is the purpose of the U-Pass. As you can see, compared to a regular adult monthly cash fare, if you're paying the $3.25 each time, the U-Pass is a huge savings. But even compared to the monthly bus pass rate, it's a great savings as well. This is the real reason why the U-Pass is here. It's to provide our students with easier access to transportation, which actually makes it easier for them to come to post-secondary. Of course, there's a whole host of indirect benefits as well. First being environmental, which I kind of touched on. Obviously, if you have more people taking public transit, less cars on the road, there's less greenhouse emissions. Next is there will be less traffic on the road, so there won't be as much delays, and the roads won't be being used as heavily, so you're going to see less construction as well. At the end of the day, it'll decrease the time that you're spent stuck waiting to get to NAIT. Of course, I talked about parking. Parking is kind of one of the obvious ones. Having the U-Pass program puts tremendous downward pressure on the demand for parking here at NAIT. That affects the number of parking stalls all the way to fees. So it is quite a big impact that we have. And then the last one is obviously having this program on campus gives us a very large buying group. And when you have a large buying group, you can leverage your position and you can actually get better terms with the service providers that you're negotiating with. Most notably, we can actually, because we have this agreement put into place, we can actually negotiate with our partners to make sure that routes are being increased and that we're serving our students correctly and properly. A question that I get is, where does the money go? Changes in revenue. All this revenue is generated from students. Where does it end up at the end of the day? So obviously when you enroll in class, these charges are assessed to your account. NAIT then collects them when you pay tuition. And then NAIT twice a year will remit a large sum of money to us, to the Students Association. We in turn remit all the money for the UPass and the health and dental insurance right to our service providers. We don't keep any of that money. We just use it to pay for the services that the students voted on and that the students want. Next, the fun stuff, the contract and bylaws. So obviously there are a few opt-outs, and I'll talk about them right now. The first is if you have qualifying disabled transit. So DAT, SCAT, or Handy Bus. Obviously, if you're a part of those systems, you won't be using the regular transit. Next are students with valid CNIB registration. After that are employees of the participating transit systems, so ETS, Strathcona County Transit, St. Albert Transit. Following that are our practicum students, or work integrated learning students. Basically, if you're on a practicum, a co-op, directed field studies, and you're placed outside of the service area for more than 8 weeks, then you're able to opt out. And that's assessed by term. So you have to be 8 weeks or longer in a single term to opt out. And of course, the last one that we have is if you are at a different institution and NAIT at the same time, maybe you're taking an online class, you have the BASCA, or you're at the University of Alberta, and you get the UPass somewhere else, you only have to pay for the UPass once. So if you pay for it at a different institution, you can show us your receipt and we'll opt you out of the program, or vice versa. Of course, there are two little options down here. If you are 100% online, meaning all of your courses are online, or if you're an apprenticeship student, the fee just will not be assessed onto your account. Pretty basic stuff. It's important to note that all of these requirements, all of these special opt-outs were negotiated at the beginning of the contract. They're not special options that we have that we can just give out. We actually had to negotiate them with our service providers way beforehand. Next is the timeline of events. So in 2007, the UPass was piloted by Grant MacEwan and the University of Alberta. A little bit before 2007, the Students Association actually did a survey of the students to see if there was enough demand to bring this program onto campus. There wasn't. So we weren't part of the original 2007 project. Instead, in 2010, we did a referendum, and we got the 67% in favor of the program. And that's when we joined. That was 3 years ago. Now, a few months back in February, we finished our contract, and we had to decide whether or not to continue along on the program. Of course, we did know that the continuing education students would be transferred, but that wasn't taking place till September. It's important to know that we had to make a decision here in February. We had to either decide to run the referendum and continue with the program, or stop the program entirely and wait for the transition of students to occur, and then run the referendum. So we decided to run the referendum in February because we weren't comfortable abandoning the program entirely, especially when we had a mandate of students to remain on the program. So what we're doing instead, because we do have a group of new students who's just joining the system right now, we're getting all the information today and online so that these students can impact the system and make any changes that they feel are necessary. All right, so here is how the changes are made. And when I say changes, it's really important to note that because of the universality of the program, either NAIT as an institution is on the UPass, in which case all the credit students at campus get it, or we're off. So those are the changes I'm talking about. We're either in or we're out. So the first bylaw I'm going to talk about is our bylaw regarding referendum. Obviously you saw in the past two referendums, we had a 67% and a 78%. According to our bylaws, we need at least 2/3, the majority of the students who vote, to vote in favor. So we've passed that threshold twice now. The second bylaw I want to talk about is the petition bylaw. So for our new members who are just joining the system right now and who didn't get a chance to vote in the previous referendum, this would be your option if you want to have your voice heard. Basically it says if there's a petition signed by 10% of the membership, we will enact a new referendum. This is important because in our contract, there's a stipulation that states we are allowed to leave the contract as long as we give the service providers enough time. It's really important though, once we leave the contract, we cannot opt back into the contract till this contract period is done. So we're just beginning a new 4-year period. If we as an institution, as we as students decided to leave, we wouldn't be able to join again until that 4-year period is over. So I'd like to go through just a few common pieces of feedback that I get from students. The first two I'm going to talk about are, I drive to NAIT and I live outside of Edmonton. A lot of students, well not a lot, but the students who do come to me with this feedback don't feel as if it's fair that they should be on the program. And I understand their perspective, I get it, I get where they're coming from. But due to the universality of the program, and because of the way it's structured, we as an institution, all the credit students, the reason that we get such a heavy discount that I showed you before is because all of the students are buying, as a huge buying group, right? Giving certain opt-outs for certain different situations begins to degrade the power of our buying group, and the discount that we get from our service providers would be lessened. I didn't vote in the last referendum. So there are a few groups on campus that actually didn't get a chance to vote in last year, or in February's referendum. The first two groups are either high school students or people out in industry who are just coming to NAIT for the first time, first-year students. They are part of the system, they're just joining it, but they didn't get a chance to actually vote in the previous election. And of course, the other group is our continuing education students who are now being reclassified to be credit students. So, because there are groups on campus that didn't get a chance to voice their opinions during the last referendum, that's why we're here today. That's why I'm sharing all of the bylaws and all the contract stipulations to give you all the options that you have available to you. But unfortunately, you just couldn't vote in the last referendum. So the next is, I'm a work integrated learning student. These are co-op, practicum, directed field study students who are not on campus. The reason, again, it boils down to the universality of the program as to why they're on it. We do have a specific opt-out for those people. Of course, you have to be outside the service area for 8 weeks or longer. The next is, I'm a part-time student. I only take 1 class or 2 classes, and I never had to pay for the UPass or the services before, but now I do. So in the past, it used to be just full-time students were put onto the program. But now, because of the new academic model, it's become next to impossible for NAITSA to distinguish between a part-time student and a full-time student. The system just isn't set up to let us know that information. So the decision was made to put all credit students onto these programs. So that's the reason that you're seeing this change if you're a part-time student. Next is, transit does not operate in my area. And this again boils back to that influence when we're negotiating. Our Director of Advocacy, Jason Roth, negotiates really heavily with our service providers to make sure that the service is in the places that our students need it to be. And because we have the program on campus, it makes it a lot easier for us to negotiate with these people. And the final piece of feedback that I get is, can I buy a UPass if I don't qualify? And the short answer is no. If you are not a part of the program, if you're 100% online or you're taking non-credit classes, you are not part of the program. You cannot purchase an extra UPass. And vice versa, if you're on the program, you're on the program. So, the future, what does the future hold? So, obviously I talked about a petition, and obviously I talked about the contract. And again, just giving you your options. It's up to the students really to decide what they want to do in regards to this issue. So here are all the requirements that we've outlined for the petition. Obviously, you have to have a statement of intent on every page, and then every person who signs must include their name, first name, last name, their signature, their address, the date in which they sign, and their NAIT student ID number. We are asking if anyone does want to do a petition, come talk to us first. More specifically, contact me at jonathanb@nait.ca. And we'll walk you through the process before you get going to make sure it's completely valid. I wouldn't want someone to go out there, collect a bunch of signatures, just to turn it in for us to say, well, the question's too vague, or this is missing, or that's missing. So come talk to us first, and we'll get you set up and going. Next is the timeline of events in the future. So we are right here, September 16th. Today is the opening day for any petitions on this subject matter. The last day of the semester that NAITSA is open is December 20th, and this will be the last day that we will be accepting petitions on this issue. Reason being is we need to audit the petition, verify that all the signatures are correct. Then we have to bring the petition before Senate, have Senate vote on the issue, and then eventually, after all that's done, send everything to our online vote company that does our vote for us, get it all set up in the system, just in time for February to coincide with our Executive Council elections. So this would be the earliest possible vote on the topic should everything else pass by that point. And of course, September 2014 is when everything would take place. The reason that I bring this up is because it's very important that all of our students know that the mandate for the 2013 academic year has been set. There's no way to change the UPass fee, the health and dental fee for this academic year. That's what it is. But if you are passionate about the issue and you want to see changes in the system, this is the earliest day that it would take effect. So the future is important. Obviously, if you're on the yes side of the issue, you want to start talking. Because if it does come down to a referendum, you want to make sure that your voice is heard. And if you're on the no issue, it's also really important to start talking now. It looks like you might have a little bit of work ahead of you. So that's kind of it for me. That's my 20 minutes on NAITSA, what we are. I'm going to turn it over to Jay now to moderate our question period. If you do have questions, we have 2 microphones up on the side, just so we can get your feedback recorded. Otherwise, I'd be more than happy to answer anything you got.
All right, thanks, John. My name is Jason Roth. I'll moderate questions. I don't think there'll be a heck of a lot of refereeing needing to be done, but there are 2 mics set up here. I'm assuming they're both on, and so go ahead and have at it.
Hi, Natalie.
I just have one quick question.
Yeah.
I know that you say that there's not a whole lot we can do for changes, and I don't believe in, I guess, punishing everybody else because there's some people that the program doesn't benefit. Is there a way then maybe for 2014 to adjust who can opt out from the program with given all those people that really don't benefit from the program, and it's seemingly you're being punished for everybody else, the greater good.
Right.
How do we change that?
Right. As it stands right now, the only way to change it would be to do the petition that I outlined. So if you don't agree with being on the system, and that's totally fine, then you would want to advocate to the rest of the student body that we don't need to be on this system. But you might have some opposition to that as well, because I know there are students that really do use it. But I understand where you're coming from, right? I get it.
So in the contract, there's no way to add additional opt-outs?
I mean, we can try to negotiate with our service providers, and we talk with them all the time. But having additional opt-outs has traditionally just been a non-starter in the negotiations. It's completely killed the negotiation. So yeah. Cool. Thank you for the question. That was a great question. Anything else? Anything on your mind? Michelle, we got this gentleman right here.
Hi, my name is Brad Mallow, and I just got a question in regards to the UPass. As a continuing education student for the past few years, I've been going to NAIT. I'm an accredited student. I'm just wondering why I was not allowed to vote in the past referendum. I know you touched on it briefly, but if you could elaborate, that'd be great. Thanks.
Sure, absolutely. So at the time, our continuing education students on campus were actually considered limited members. They paid $6 in NAITSA fees per class. The $6 predominantly went to 2 different funds. One was the NAITSA Building Fund, and the other was the Endowment Fund, which sponsors scholarships and stuff. Being limited members, the Con Ed students never had voting rights. They also didn't pay full fees either, right? So when the referendum did take place, it was during a period of time when the Con Ed students were considered limited members. Now, as of September, we've transitioned all the Con Ed students, and they're no longer limited members, but they're just gaining the right to vote now, right?
Okay, great. I was just looking through your bylaws, and I couldn't find anything that specifically addressed the limited member.
Right.
I did find one, however, that stated, it's actually 4.1-1, all students of NAIT other than those enrolled in non-credited courses shall be members of NAITSA. And you also have another bylaw, 4.5.1.1, And that's to allow them to vote in all NAITSA elections and referenda.
Totally. So those bylaws took effect at the end of last academic year. We actually changed the bylaws to account for this transition. So the previous bylaws that were before the version that you're reading had all of the Con Ed student and limited membership stuff, but we took all that out because it doesn't apply anymore. So now the Con Ed students, who are credit students now, basically any credit student has the right to vote, and that's what you're reading in the bylaws, but previously the bylaws just didn't read this way.
Okay. So when did they exactly change the bylaws? What was it?
Jason, do you have the exact date?
Not off the top of my head, but these changes always require 2 Senate meetings to go through, so it would have happened.
It was in March or so.
Yeah, the amendment dates are listed at the end of our bylaws.
I'd have to look it up for you, but I can definitely find
Okay,
it for you.
because I'm just curious because referendum was in February.
And then I believe it was March, or it was either late March or early April that the bylaws got changed.
Okay, that's after referendum.
After the referendum. Yeah.
Okay, I just have one last question. Being as I'm forced, among other continuing education students, to buy this UPass, is there any leeway in parking at NAIT? Will we be still charged for?
So NAIT parking is administered by the NAIT administration. The UPass is administered by the NAIT Students Association, completely separate organizations. And I unfortunately I have no power to subsidize any parking.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. So any other questions while we're here? No? All right, well, thanks again for your time. Again, thank you for coming. Your discussion, your voice around this topic is really important. This will all be up online as well as the video recordings in the next couple days. But on your way out, I'll be here if you have any other questions you want to ask. If not, please grab a tumbler and some cookies and some coffee, and thanks again. Good luck.